whatever you do, do not neglect your feelings. Why is that? Well, first of all, why do we neglect our feelings? Well, because we live in a world, at least in a society, where we are taught that our feelings are not to be trusted, that our feelings are whiny little babies. And when we are conditioned to believe that, we actually get afraid of our feelings. The moment we start to feel happy, we're taught to say, hey, you know, the highs are not worth the lows, don't get too happy. When we get sad, it's like, oh, wait, don't get sad. You don't want to affect the rest of the world. You don't want to affect your peers, your family. Well, we are conditioned to believe that our feelings are just these crazy little things. Well, here's the truth. Our feelings are messengers. Our feelings are telling us that the youngest, most immature parts of us are being poked at, that they are being wounded. And if we don't address those things, well, those immature parts are going to kick and scream. I mean, look at toddlers. You can view your feelings like toddlers, right? If you have a toddler that needs something, that toddler is not just gonna say, hey, mommy, I need something, and you're like, oh, nah, not right now. Oh, okay, I get it, I'm gonna go get it myself. They don't do that. They whine and cry and throw a fit and throw a tantrum until they're addressed. A lot of parents will unfortunately tell the child to shut up or go to their room or punish them in some way, while some parents are going to tend to that child, right? They're going to take a break out of their day and say, hey, you know what? It looks like you have a need. It looks like you need something. And they're going to quiet that child down by soothing it, by taking care of its needs. Now, those who ignore it, who neglect it, those children are going to grow up being super needy. They're going to grow up to be super quiet. They're going to be considered the easy babies. They're going to be considered easygoing, or they're going to be considered so dramatic, right? Because they don't really get to grow up in a natural, nurturing environment. So, in a nutshell, what we resist persists, right? What we resist persists. So if we resist, if we neglect our feelings, they're going to persist to the point where they're so worked up and they're loud and they don't even know how to take care of themselves. You don't know what to do with them. You don't know how to take care of them. And what happens next is the unattended feeling needs a reason behind that feeling, right? Your mind has to justify this. Your mind has to say, wait a minute, why was I feeling that? Why did I let it exaggerate to that point? Why did I have to go there? And then it creates a story, because your mind is designed to create a story to back up anything, right? I mean, look at all the things that we rationalize: politics, religion, ethnics and different cultures, and we rationalize everything. So the same goes for our feelings. We are going to find a way to rationalize those feelings. Well, in marriage, because this is a marriage channel, in marriage we're going to rationalize that feeling, that's now worked up, exaggerated feeling, with a story or many stories, right? We're going to say, you know what? When you did that 20 years ago, or 13 years ago, or 17 days ago, or I don't know, 3 hours ago, and you just pile things up, you pile up these stories so that you can justify your feelings. Does that sound familiar? I know I just talked straight for 4 minutes without stopping, literally for 4 minutes. But that is what happens. So we have this feeling, unattended, neglected feeling, that will not go quietly down, right, unattended. So it just builds up and builds up and builds up and gets bigger and bigger and stronger, to the point where you cannot handle it. And in order for you to do something with it, you are going to create a story to justify that feeling, right? So now you find yourself in a fight. Now you find yourself in a discussion of why your husband or your wife did something to lead you to create that feeling. I've found myself there many, many, many times. So this is not a reflection of you. This is simply speaking from experience. And we're always going to find reasons because humans are alive. We're making mistakes constantly. If we're not making mistakes, that means we're just not doing anything. So your husband is making mistakes, and subconsciously you are keeping track. You're not choosing to keep track, but subconsciously you're keeping track of all the things that he is doing wrong. So now it's almost like as backup for when this feeling blows beyond your control, beyond your management, you bring up these stories. Well, guess what the next step is here? You end up believing that your husband is bad. You end up believing that he is somehow out to destroy you or destroy this marriage or destroy something, right? Because you end up, and this again is not your fault, you end up believing this because feeling plus story, intense feelings plus story make up a belief. And here's how I'm going to prove it to you. You know, when you go to, let's say, I don't know if you're religious, but if you go to a church, right? And I do, so I'm very much pro-faith, pro-God. When you go to church and you have this feeling, right? There's music, there's chanting, there's whatever happens in your church or a church, right? And there's incense and there's just this beautiful healing energy inside of this space that you're sharing with all of these people, and you feel safe, right? You feel good, you feel like you belong. Things feel right. You feel like you're going to be taken care of, right? So there's that feeling, right? And then, let's say if a pastor or preacher or whoever whoever's giving the sermon is going to tell you stories, right? They're going to tell you something that happened. They're going to tell you a verse, and then they're going to elaborate on it and create stories to back that up. So you have this feeling plus this story, and you end up believing, right? This is how you become a Christian or something, right? You identify as that because you believe that. So, or let's say if you're at, I don't know, if you are, I come from Bosnia, and there were many rallies before the war in the 90s started. So you have this feeling of unsafety. There's a threat, and then there's somebody in the square preaching and telling a story, and then you end up believing what they're telling you is the truth, and then you hate the enemy, right? So in any experience that you may be having where there's a feeling, a specific feeling that's unaddressed, that's not taken care of, that's unguided, and you must create a story to back it up. You have to. Your mind is designed to justify, to make sense of something, of this uncontrollable feeling, and then you end up believing it. So this is why so many of us in our marriages, we walk around believing that our husband is out to destroy us, or that or he's gonna cheat, or he or she or something. Right? We all end up with a belief. Right? So, in a nutshell, neglecting your feelings is the most detrimental thing that you can do for your marriage. So my encouragement to you right now is to write down your most common feelings that you feel when you are with or away from your spouse. And just jot down, just go brainstorm what stories you have about what creates that feeling, right? If I asked you now, hey, what are you feeling? And you say, I'm angry at him. I would say, well, why are you angry? Well, because he did this and he didn't do that, and back then, and he's going to or he's not going to. You are going to give me a story. So I would strongly encourage you, write down the most commonly felt feelings about your spouse, and write down all the stories that you have, and you're gonna be able to see what you actually believe about your spouse, your marriage, yourself, your future, your past, and you're going to see why you are in a marriage like this. All right. Shoot me some comments. Let me know what you think of this. Subscribe and share this with somebody that you know will benefit from